Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today we're taking a look at the BattleTech novel, Far Country. It's written by Peter L. Rice for you. It's not in the Wikipedia, so there's not a whole lot of stuff to say about this. I'm only going to be giving this a 5 out of 10. We've been doing a deep dive into the BattleTech series. This one I picked up when I was a kid and when it was published, but I've actually never gone out and read it. So now I've knocked it out for the first time. I just bought it and so forth. I started reading the BattleTech novels when I was in 10th grade, about a year after I started playing them in 9th grade. And then I would go out there and pick up the first 3 novels that were published by Rock, and this is also published by Rock. And then I did a deep dive about all the other ones, read them all back to back. And then I read them as they got published. Sometimes maybe a couple of years, sometimes 5 or 6 a year, depending on how many they had coming out and so forth. The series got started in the early 80s and was published by the company that made BattleTech, FASA, and then Rock picked it up and they republished all the old ones, as well as publishing new novels like Far Country. For you guys. So I'm only going to be giving this a 5 out of 10 for you. I wasn't that engrossed with it. I started reading it about 40 pages after coming back from a flight from Huntington, West Virginia for an interview for a job. And then I knocked it out mostly on a Saturday. It's got about 330 pages long in it. Probably took me about 7 hours yesterday, plus the hour on Friday. So about 8 hours total for me to read it. I typically knock out about 40 pages an hour in these faster reads by Peter L. Rice. It wasn't that gripping, and there were times when I was like, I kind of really don't want to continue this novel, unlike some of the previous ones that I've read in this series. And so I'm only going to be giving it a 5 out of 10 for that reason. But it's fine in the writing. Peter Rice is fine. I also disagree with some of the contextual things that happen in this novel. So let's get started. Talk about my review. Now, as a reminder, I think there's a lot of fun things in going back and rereading things that you've either read just the one time when you were growing up, then go back to it as somebody who's now 45, decades of experience and decades of reading that have been done since then. What do I think about this now? Also, this channel cares about older books since it was, the title of the channel is a quote by Jacques Joubert, which says that the worst thing about new books is that they keep us from reading the old ones. And thus, I really care a lot about the older books that are published out there. And a series that was originally published in the 80s and then also got a lot of books in the 90s is definitely something that I is part of the channel, because that was decades ago, right? So that's definitely an older book by most modern contemporary standards. This published book series has more than 100 books in it, but I have not gone back and reread any novel more than once since I read it for the first time. And then this one again, I haven't read it at all. So let's talk a little bit about it. Again, I try to keep my reviews spoiler-free, so I won't talk about the spoiler-based reasons as to why I don't like this, just the basic sort of plot lines of what's going on. So, as a reminder, BattleTech universe is set in the 31st century, about 1,000 years from now, in the mid-31st century. And by that time, we have, settled and colonized thousands of star systems with thousands of colonies within them, sometimes more than one in a system. And then after that, we have not met any intelligent life. And so for that reason, we have taken all of our problems with us to the stars. All the issues that we have with people right now are the same issues that we're taking with us 1,000 years in the future, and also the best of us we're taking with us in the future. We're not like the Federation that's overcome so many different issues, right? Instead, we're still just the same people that we are today, right? That oftentimes like to look to fighting and war to deal with our issues, right? So that's what we're happening in the BattleTech world. Okay, but Far Country is different. In Far Country, there is now intelligent life, and I don't like that sort of central conceit on a planet that they go to explore. I'm just not a fan of what happens. Also, in the prelude, we find out that there are people that have arrived to this planet that we're going to beforehand, and we'll spend a few chapters following them along, and then later on we'll rejoin them. I don't like that sort of conceit either. The idea of exploring a system that you just flew to, due to a jump drive accident, I think is fine. But I don't like the fact that it already happened once. It defies imagination. I think it already happened once. Plus the fact that there are again intelligent life of an alien nature. That's a bird like this one. for a creature that looks like that. I just don't like that central conceit either. So if you'll find out about 40 or 50 pages into the novel that these things are happening and these things are there, and I'm not a big fan of it. I think it ruins the central conceit of the universe that I love so much, and that was so beloved. It's in like a lot of IP. In addition to more than 100 novels, the board game, BattleTech. There's also a role-playing game called Mech Warrior that a lot of people have played. There's also all the video games that are out there, tons of them that are out there. That were published starting in the 80s. And then you also have, the collectible card game by Wizards of the Coast. You have the collectible miniature games by WizKids Games. You have the Saturday morning cartoon, right? You have a lot of different ways you can interact with this stuff and enjoy it. All right. And it's definitely something that's definitely appealed to people because, again, we are our own worst enemy, right? We don't need an intelligent species, right, in order to be the big bads or the big goods, right? Or just sort of advocate, or sort of amoral. So I just don't like the addition of an intelligent, non-human species on this planet that these guys are arriving to after a misjump. And we find out, of course, in the prelude that there was already a misjump, right? And we followed them along for a couple of chapters. It's not... I just don't like it textually, and it doesn't make sense for me as somebody who's trying to read this with a suspension of disbelief, as well as it doesn't feel like a BattleTech novel, if you will. So I'm only going to be giving it a 5 out of 10. Although it's written fine, and again, I knocked it out, and I was glad to do that for you. But there you are. So again, I don't give you spoilers, but if you want to talk about spoilers in the comments below, let's go ahead and do so. If you enjoyed this video, hey, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.